Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. We have a new cruiser line in the game, so as is customary, now I am going to be looking at the very end of said line. This, at tier 10, is the San Martín, and I am going to assume that she's named after José de San Martín, who is a bit of a national hero around South America due to his role in kicking the Spanish out and gaining independence. And this is meant to be an Argentinian ship. You wouldn't be able to tell from the completely fictionary flag that it's flying, which is a bit of a bummer, because I would really love to see the Argentinian Navy flag up there. But maybe one day we'll get that still. Anyway, the San Martín is, if we're looking at the information that Wargaming provides, a completely hypothetical ship that could have been built for sale to the Argentinian Navy post-war. Now, the Argentinian Navy was somewhat involved in the 1955 revolution, and I haven't really found an awful lot about their interest in purchasing cruisers from the US or the UK, but this is sort of the idea: what if they had purchased a light cruiser post-war and had based it pretty much on the Worcester class with dual-purpose guns for anti-aircraft duty. Now, an interesting thing that you'll notice, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, is that the San Martín features both triple and twin gun turrets. So while she only has 4 turrets, there are 10 gun barrels all in total, from the two triplets and 2 twins. Now, the Worcesters were running the 6-inch 47 Mark 16 dual-purpose gun turrets, and the non-dual purpose version was also a Mark 16 6-inch, but these would have been the triple turrets that we've seen on the Brooklyns and Clevelands. So I'm assuming here that this is a hypothetical triple turret that was supposed to be built around the dual purpose guns that never actually got constructed, such that these are all dual purpose and the triples can be used for anti-aircraft duty. Anyway, the gun turrets mostly didn't exist, the ship didn't exist, and as such is in very good company at tier 10. So, what have we got here now? Well, the gimmick, if you have not seen the previous video, the gimmick of the new Pan American, yes, we're going to call it Pan American, the Pan Am line, because it does, thank you, for somebody in the comments pointed that out, thank you, that it does include Mexico, and that Mexico is part of North America, so that makes sense. The gimmick of these ships is the combat instruction. So the general idea is it's a little bit funny, because at the time when you were building things like these ships, nobody was using, at least not the Americans, was using visual confirmation of shell splashes anymore. These were radar guided normally, so well, anyway, observed fire. We'll assume that means potentially radar guided. So what does this do? It's basically a rapid reload, a precise aim, and a penetration buff rolled into one. You don't get it for free. Not like the normal ship skills. It's a charge up boost. So you have to land 50 shells with the main guns before you can use it. Then you can use it, and once it has expired, then you have to land another 50 shells before you can use it again, which puts a natural limit to how often you can actually do that in a battle. So this thing gives 30% dispersion reduction, 30% reload time reduction, and 30% shell penetration power increase. This is, especially the shell penetration power, is a little bit of a double-edged sword, but we'll get to that later. Let's begin by comparing her to what makes the most sense, which is the Worcester. So let's take a look. The San Martín gets the same defensive AA. She gets the same radar. She does not get sonar, but she does get the emergency repair, so you get 20% more hit points from repair kits, whereas Worcester gets the legendary module. She's got, for all intents and purposes, a relatively similar hull to the Worcester. Now, I haven't played Worcester extensively, but I felt that, and I might be wrong here, this is completely unscientific, it's just a gut feeling that the San Martin takes more damage than Worcester. This might be down to the next factor, which is the maneuverability, because while the San Martin is faster than the Worcester, and at full rudder actually turns slightly better than the Worcester, it takes significantly longer to get there because she's got a 9.3 second base turn time. That is German levels of turn time, which for the Germans isn't so much of a problem because these things are rather sturdy, whereas this thing, I have been chonked quite brutally. So it could be that while the values for armor that we're seeing here are more or less the same, that the ship actually does not get exactly the same armor as the Worcester hull, and either has worse or better armor, and as such might be suffering less overpenetrations, something like that. Anyway, Worcester obviously has the, well, as we said, 47 caliber length, Mark 16 dual purpose, fully auto-loading guns. And she gets 6 twin turrets of them for a total of 12, whereas the San Martin only gets 10. The base reload is a little bit slower, but it's not an awful lot. And the range is actually a little bit better on the San Martin. In common with the rest of the line, she does not get high explosive shells, which puts a little bit of a dampener on the idea to just sit behind an island and HE spam things. In return, she does get torpedoes. 2 quintuple launchers, 8 kilometer range. Decent torpedoes all overall, but a 68 second is pretty long in terms of reload. Still, you have them. The AA is very, very good. It's not quite as good as on the Worcester, but it is still very, very good. And I would say, for all intents and purposes, probably about indistinguishable from, in practice, from what you're achieving when a Worcester is sailing around, so you are a floating aerial denial bubble. She does get a little bit better surface detection, but other than that is a very, very similar ship to the Worcester in most regards. So, what can you do in terms of setup? You can get better range or better reload and traverse. I am very tempted here to go with better range because these ships are balanced. So this is a tier 10 light cruiser, and these things aren't small, right? These are relatively large ships. So maneuverability normally with light cruisers is what saves you at tier 10, because as much armor as you might have, there are things out there like Vermonts that completely don't care and would love nothing better than to take half your health off in one salvo. So she's kind of balanced around the fact that she has a not as good maneuverability for a relatively lightly plated cruiser, that she gets the better heal. So it's similar to the idea with the British battle cruisers, where you HP tank. And you can, to a degree, make that work. But you have to be really, really careful with your positioning. And that's why the gun range here comes in, because you do only have the armor piercing, which means you need to actually aim where you're shooting at in order to actually do damage to battleships. Let me just put it out here right now. These ships, if you are playing them as support cruisers, they're not damage dealers. You can make 100,000 points of damage in a game, but then you have to play egoistically, and you have to effectively ignore enemy destroyers, ignore your AA defense duty, and just farm battleships. And then you can do that. I wouldn't recommend it though, because it really wastes a lot of the possibilities that you have with these things. The historical camo that I have put on here, it gives us main battery range, torpedo range, traverse speed, which is good, and surface detection, which is also quite good. So it's nice to have that. There is a Inca Treasure alternate camo, which does not look completely terrible for a change. It could always be worse. And the main difference between the two of them well, is that they're completely different. So the Inca treasure gives hit points, range, and dispersion and traverse speed, but no concealment. To be perfectly honest, I would probably take this one for more hit points and dispersion, because that works better with the idea that you have an increased heal, and that you are going to be fighting mostly at long range. So like, torpedo range is nice, surface detection is quite nice as well, but it's not that the historical camo is a bad camo. So this one is personally probably would be my choice if I had it laying around. I don't know how much they will cost if they are in a box or whatever, so no idea. They're both decent camos for the ship, let's put it that way. Equipment wise, I am using the main battery mod 3 because the dispersion on these guns is okay. The problem is on a Worcester it doesn't matter, because you're just going to spam very floaty 150mm HE shells at battleships at long range and just set permafires. And at close range, it doesn't matter. Whereas with this thing, if you're trying to damage anything battleshipy at long range, you kind of have to manage to hit the bow and stern section where the armor plating is thin enough that you can penetrate. Unless you have the combat instruction running, at which point it doesn't really matter, because you're probably going to get through the deck plating as well. But for that, you oftentimes end up actually having a bit of a trouble there. And the second aspect being that you actually need to land 50 hits on target before your combat instructions become active. So having improved dispersion, and here comes the other camo in as well, is a good thing for this ship. The rest is identical. You could maybe consider playing concealment, but it severely limits your utility, because with 9-second turn time, you're going to have a real hard time dodging any kind of incoming fire. So with this setup and with the historical camouflage on, I am getting an 8.4 second turn time, which is still, for a light cruiser, pretty harsh, but it's sort of workable. And we got an 8.7 kilometer service detection before the supplies are coming in. Now, I have again played 2 battles, one with a level 10 commander and one with a fully upgraded commander and premium consumables. Especially the premium heal comes in quite handy here. So you definitely want to, or I mean, I'll assume that you want, I don't have any other commanders, so that's why you keep seeing this one. You probably want, or at least I want, an additional battlefield support for the battlefield support for the additional AA. You could argue that you don't need it and you take the torpedo alert because you don't have a sonar. And that is one of the limitations, especially if you're fighting destroyers at close range. The combination of relatively poor maneuverability and lack of sonar can make dodging torpedoes a little bit more challenging than on something like a Worcester or like a Minotaur, which is effectively a destroyer at that stage. So it'll be valid to take that as well, depending on how confident you are in your torpedo dodging skills. The air defense expert is a no-brainer. And given that you have no precise aiming or anything similar, obviously the complete heal build here with a survivalist for another plus 15%, which nicely combos with the plus 20% you get already from the ship specialty and the reduced cooldown. Now, given that this is and I would play it as a support cruiser. You're going to be afflicted by incoming aircraft. Now, you can or will shoot everything down that gets sent at you, but not necessarily before they get a strike off. So having both the extinguisher and the compartment maintenance is a decent choice here. In level 6, I am still going with exploit weakness, despite myself actually not being able to set any fires, but I can still shoot at things that are set on fire by somebody else, and then that works out reasonably well. The other alternative, which is also a good one, would be the generalist for another HP recovery. Given that you have no secondaries, we'll ignore that skill, that legendary or epic skill, and go with demolition expert, and then you obviously want the APCS, because it's only you got. And I've gone here with the horizontal protection expert rather than something like giant hunter, because I find that with 8.4 kilometer and a relatively poor maneuverability, I don't usually use my torpedoes an awful lot, because this is tier 10. Now, this might be very server dependent. I'm playing obviously on press account on the Asian server, which has the tendency to be a bit how am I going to put this? Well, I used to call it Campground Zero. It tends to be a bit long-range gunnery heavy, so I tend not to use my torpedoes an awful lot. So it's a valid choice as well. But there we are. Anyway, so San Martin. Before we get into the battle, the last thing I want to mention. Let's get back to this combat instruction. Why did I say this is a double-edged sword? Well, the 30% shell penetration power increase is a bit of a problem. Why is that a problem, Terry? It's a good thing. No, it depends what you're shooting at. If you're dogfighting a destroyer in this thing, you're caught between a rock and a hard place, because 30% shell penetration improvement means that your AP is going to be an Elbing problem. Right? You're going to start just over-penetrating destroyers at 5-6 kilometers, and you're not doing any damage to them. You can't switch to the HE because you don't have any. So while it is very tempting and very useful to have a faster reload and especially a better dispersion when hunting destroyers, just be aware that you're going to start over-penetrating the buggers and not do any damage to them. So I personally tend actually not to use it if I'm fighting destroyers, despite the downsides of not having the faster reload and better dispersion because of the overpenetration. And you really need to be very precise and hit the destroyer on the belt in order to not overpenetrate. And even there, just due to dispersion, it's a small target. You're going to start overpenetrating. So I generally try not to do that when I'm hunting destroyers. I'm only using it against other ships. Now, you're not going to be quite at Elbing levels and starting to Citadel battleships through the deck left, right, and center. But especially at closer range, if you can hit the deck armor, you can very much Citadel battleship and other cruisers as well. You can make relatively short work of. Now, again, for me, these ships are not necessarily damage dealers. They're okay at that. But I play them as support cruisers, and that for me is making use of the radars, going after destroyers, going after other cruisers. Against battleships, they're not necessarily the best ship in the game, which means that while they're doing an okay amount of damage and can do a good job of helping the team win, they're not necessarily going to end you up at the top of the team list because you did over 100,000 damage every game, because you just set everything on fire while laughing maniacally and still looking enviously over at the Smolensk, who's just so much better at it than you. Anyway, enough talk, let's fight. 2 battles. First one, regular consumables and level 10 commander. Second, fully upgraded with everything money can throw at it. Let's go. We are obviously in a tier 10 battle, but there are a couple of tier 9s around. We are facing Mecklenburg, double Iowa, Smolensk, an Ibuki, a Somers, and a Yugomo in domination on Loop. I'm not quite sure if I've played Loop even before. I think it's one of the newer maps, but we'll see. We'll see what we get up to. We've got a Shima and a Z46, who should be coming in quite useful, and a Yugomo of our own. So obviously, the general rule of thumb, the team with the more Smolensks in the game wins, but I am going to be surprisingly useful against Smolensk as long as I can fight that thing in range. Now, one thing that these cruisers are not is good for cap control. Now, this is a little bit of I'm taking a little bit of a risk here to go into the center cap, because that's an Izumo and he's not going anywhere. But unfortunately, both of our destroyers are spawning around A. And there is a handy island in the middle, and I have torpedoes, which means that if anybody comes close, if any of the destroyers decides to rush me, I can make a very quick end of them. And if I'm facing opposition, there are plenty of islands around here that should allow me to disengage somewhat if I'm in need to, get out of dodge very quick. And by the looks of it, we have an AFK destroyer around A cup, and the other one doesn't seem to be inclined to actually get in the cup, so that's a good start. And there is the enemy Mecklenburg, definitely not something that I want to tangle with. There's also the Iowa. But so we'll see if I can get myself shielded there with the island and get some shots off. Okay, I am detected. Never mind. I am probably Yep, there's some more ships coming around the side. Okay, everyone's here. All right, drop torpedoes into the gap and then get the heck out of here because That's half the enemy team, and there goes my first heal. Smolensk must kill! Yeah, unfortunately the Smolensk is around the other capture circle. So I'm dropping some torpedoes at these people, and just as area denial, while the Izumo gets himself into a position. We have pushed the Iowa away. It looks like the Mecklenburg was not interested in coming this way. There is, however, an Ibuki as well, so well, we'll do what we can to keep him out of the capture circle, but you know, someone has captured. Okay. Enemy team holds all 3 capture circles, and ow, yes, that's what happens, because you just can't turn the thing. And yeah, Izumo, there's a Somers, yep, that's not gonna end well. The thing is, I couldn't stay because of the sheer amount of things, and you know, Smolensk must kill. Trying to help the friendly team out, but we've just lost. We've lost one of our destroyers. We've just lost the Izumo, I believe, to that drop from the Somers. I don't know what he was thinking in an Izumo to push that aggressively, but that Yugumo is dead, and that means we just need to deal with the Smolensk, who is sitting there in his smokescreen. And then we might actually be capturing something. Let's see if we can actually get some capture points for a change. Of course, insta-fire from the Smolensk. I do need to damage control this because I think I am getting close to the maximum range. So I'm just going to rely on that because I'm losing too much hit points here. Shimakaze, for obvious reasons, does not want to push in. Although Smolensk is on the run now, I have no idea what our battleship is doing all the way on the right end of the map there. But we've just lost another ship. That was our friendly Yugumo dying to an Iowa. I'm not sure how. But Shimakaze is now trying to probably go for a drop under the battleship. And I'm just going to try and do something about the Smolensk. Now the problem is I can't push into the capture circle. Why can I not push into the capture circle? Because there's an Iowa over there. At least the battleship is now coming in as well and needs to deal with the Smolensk. This is a good position to trigger the combat instructions and start unloading at the Smolensk. And obviously do need to hit him still. I'm still getting used to these guns, but if you can hit him with the combat instructions up, then this is what happens. The shells are a little floaty, but not quite as floaty as they generally are on something like Worcester. Smolensk seems to have run into an island. And sitting behind an island and lobbing shells over an island is normally the way to go in this ship, because that allows you to remain undetected. We are finally holding a capture circle and having a little bit of a points income, but the Yugumo that I've killed is the only enemy ship that's gone down so far, so let's see if we can make an end to the Smolensk over there. That's another nice citadel on him, doesn't even need the combat instructions for that. But yeah, the Yamato takes him out. Okay, well done. So let's take down the Iowa. There is Somers coming in as well. And Shimakaze is very much not suited towards that. So I'm going to try and help out with the Somers. Unfortunately, while the shells are a bit floaty, they're not nearly as floaty as Worcester shells. But I've recovered some hit points. So let's go bow in towards the Iowa and see if we can outflank the Somers before he blabs that oblivious Yamato into the side. And Shimakaze is not really well suited to dealing with him. Okay, Somers smokes up, radar up. And let's start unloading at the Somers. This is one of those scenarios where you absolutely definitely do not want to use the combat instructions, even if I had it available. And yeah, Somers is not stupid, so he is coming around the other side of the island. There also comes Ibuki, and since Shimakaze is now spotted because he's been sitting there for too long, he should have run once he saw me coming in. And I think our Yamato is about to lose a gunfight with an Iowa. I don't know how, but he might have eaten some Somers torpedoes. I wouldn't be surprised, because I don't think anybody in my team, yeah, there are the Somers torpedoes. Anybody in my team has really been paying any attention to that Somers, except me for a second. Okay, Yamato takes out the Iowa, but yeah, that leaves that Somers over there, and I've got Ibuki to shoot at. Let's see if I can lob the shells over before I trigger the combat instruction. Yes, there's the yes, Mr. Somers, I see you. Okay, you seem to have run into an island. Not triggering the combat instructions anymore. I'm just going to slow down, but we're 400 points behind and 2 kills behind. There's a Mecklenburg. Somers has gone undetected. There comes the enemy Iowa. So all I can do at this point is just do a little bit more damage, but the game is very much lost. There's absolutely no way for us to win this still, not with 50 seconds remaining and only one capture circle. There might be so much torpedoes in the way. It's not an awful lot I can do about it because I have to angle both against Mecklenburg and Iowa, which I can no longer see. And I'm just blind firing at. Somers is still somewhere out there. And yeah, Yamato is on such low health that he can't really be useful. Yep, I've seen you, Somers. Yes, I've seen you. It doesn't matter anymore at this point, but let's get some torpedoes away at the Mecklenburg. Maybe we can take him down with us. And I have a radar ready for the Somers. There he is. Yep, hello, Mr. Somers. And yeah, again, it really doesn't matter. This Mecklenburg takes me down. But this is sort of, this is what I would call a good game. And maybe we can still take the Mecklenburg. Oh, come on, really? Oh man, 2 seconds more and I would have taken the Mecklenburg down still for another kill and probably about 85,000 points of damage all in all. That's a good game, and that's a good game in the ship. So light cruisers, anything from the Pan-Asian line, things like Smolensk, you be watching out because these things can absolutely positively ruin their day. And there's no possibility that anybody's ever shooting high explosive at you from these because they can't. So let's put all the premium things in and put our support cruiser hat on and see what happens when we're going up against a carrier. And it is center control on cage against Taiho, Colombo, Monty, Smolensk. Why am I not surprised? Shima Gearing and Ragnar. Now we do have a Halland, a Småland, a Haru, which has been given defensive AA. Myself, we've got a Slava on our team, so this might actually work out. Let's see how it goes. Lots of AA on our side, so the carrier does not really have an awful lot of chances, especially if the team plays ball and actually, you know, I don't know, gets into the capture circle, you know, stuff, unicum tactics like that. So where are we spawning? Okay, we're spawning north on cage, which means we have that extremely handy island over there. And the beauty of this island is that you can get behind it and you can be inside the capture circle while being undetected. The counterplay to this island is flanking maneuvers. So as soon as anybody gets around the flank or, you know, the carrier spots you from the air, but I am uniquely positioned to do something about that carrier. So let's see. Looks like our fighters got baited from the friendly carrier. So, well, there goes that. And it looks like everybody is going into the capture circles. And yet, yes, the team even calls out, let's get into the capture circles. Okay, enemy Shimakaze air spotted. Let's get a couple shots out. Shima instantly smokes. And again, the shells are a little bit on the floaty side, and at long ranges can be pretty tricky to actually get on target against things like destroyers. But there comes the carrier. Hello, Mr. Carrier. Daka! Now, obviously, I am air spotted. And if you see me missing a lot of shots, that is mostly due to literally having my head on a swivel by when I am air spotted, all the battleships are going to start unloading at this thing because for two reasons. A, it's a light cruiser, and B, it's a new ship. It's a brand new ship. So I really don't have time to aim. For most of the time, I am just frantically observing the battle space and trying to make myself useful, especially when I'm spotted. And even if I'm not spotted, these guys are blind firing me like no tomorrow. But Shimakaze, you're not getting out of there. And there comes the carrier again. This time with fighter planes, but it looks like he's not having actually any interest in getting over here. Okay, I'm spotted again. Not sure who spotted me there. May have been Shima. Look, yeah, I think it was Shima. So Gearing is behind. He can't see me from over there, even though he is within my spotting range. So I'm still undetected. I am taking fire from something, but can I shoot at Ragnar? I do need to constantly keep an eye on incoming fire, because there is a Cristoforo Colombo, and there comes the carrier again. But we are holding the capture circle, although we have lost one of our destroyers. There is Gearing. Gearing is getting into the capture circle, so let's open up on him. I am spotted. That's the Ragnar. But there comes the airstrike again. And that carrier is falling for the new ship must kill kind of problem, which I am completely in favor of. Please send more aircraft my way. I will make sure to put them into decorative places on the bottom of the sea. That's what happens when a Christopher Colombo shoots at you. Even with some armor piercing, right? That was SAP. That just went straight through and held the garbage out of me. Double fire from Ragnar. Need to damage on that. That means I need to get back into hiding, and now we have lost the capture control. Harugumo has taken quite a bit of damage. Småland is sailing around the outside of the capture circle. I wonder what he's up to. Is he going after the carrier? Who would know? Gearing is in a strong position. The way you counter this is by flanking. I can't flank in this thing because I'd be playing out in the open. And again, I do need to keep very, very close eye onto where the enemy team is going. I should have the gearing with that salvo. Yep, got him. Okay, Ragnar next. Let's see if we can do something about the Ragnar, because I am still managing to be undetected, but not for long. There comes the carrier again. So I instantly need to shift and move forward towards the island to block incoming fire from the Christopher Colombo, because that thing can just one-shot me from there. And the Montana as well, which means I'm actually missing most of my shots against the Ragnar, because I am keeping half an eye on the carrier and the other half on the, on that Montana and that Colombo over there. Plus there comes the carrier torpedo bomber wing, and he does get a couple torpedoes on target. I have got my last heal coming off cooldown, there we go, but now Montana is probably in a position to being able to spot me, so just Hail Mary torps out and tuck in behind the island and wait for me to get unspotted. That's a fire. I do need to damacon that, even though it's a single fire, because I'm out of heals, and that's it. But they're wasting a lot of shots into the capture circle. My team is, we're a kill ahead. And yeah, now Monty is going to spot me. This is what I said. This is the counterplay. If you're flanking, then there's nothing I can do. So I have to get out of here. Got a couple of torpedo hits on the Monty. Cool. Okay, I need to leave because I'm out of hit points. I'm out of heals. I'm out of everything. Keeping an eye on the minimap, if the planes are coming back in, and it looks like the planes are coming back in, and everybody's shooting at me because, well, first of all, I'm a low-health cruiser, and second of all, I'm in a new ship, and everybody needs to kill the new ship. So, Ragnar. Let's see if we can still do something about the Ragnar. There comes the carrier. That is one permafire that I'm not going to be able to do anything about, but such is fate. Not really having time to aim properly against the Ragnar. There's also Smolensk. I would have loved to be still in my position there, but I'm just trying to dodge the incoming fire, because again, that's a full health Christopher Colombo, and there's still a Montana. There comes the fire from the Colombo, and a single hit is going to kill me here. So there's absolutely no way I'm ever going to get out of this one alive. Not with the whole enemy team shooting at me, and not with two of our destroyers going around the outside of the map and trying to kill the enemy carrier. And an AFK Slava. Okay, the Harugumo is low on hit points. He did need to leave. But yeah, Småland. Capture circle would have been good. There's a Christopher Colombo that you could have been torpedoing or farming. I don't know. There's a Montana. The carrier on our side is doing the god's work here by trying to take out that battleship on the side. The bigger problem is that we're obviously not capable of actually getting the capture circle. There are some Harugumo torps, but they're not going to do an awful lot against the Colombo at that range. And Harugumo, I think, has also been killed. Småland is distracted, trying to kick the carrier to death. Slava is AFK. And yeah, that's pretty much the game. But we have shot 38 planes down. This is what happens when a carrier sends more planes your way. And obviously we're losing due to the fact that we're not holding any of the captures, that we're not getting any capture points. Now the Småland has killed the Taiho, but I don't see anything happening. The carrier is sending dive bombers in, but that's a Ragnar. Yeah, they're not going to get through that. They're going to die. They are not getting through that. Not happening. And Smolensk is no slouch either in AA. They've finally burned down the AFK Slava. Yamato is on low hit points, but doing what he can. That Colombo was pretty much unscathed, but yeah. What you're gonna do? Would have been useful to have a destroyer or two, and maybe a non-AFK Slava. But still, my point being, this is a very, very good support cruiser. But you're not in a Worcester. You don't have Worcester's maneuverability, and you don't have any HE shells. And doing damage is not necessarily what you're here for. Now, unfortunately, we're coming out fourth in the team, which is still better than still better than some of the rest of it. But you're not always going to do 70, 80, 90, 100,000 points of damage. That's not what you're here for. But as a support cruiser, I've totally done my job here in this game. I've held the capture circle for as long as I can. I've taken down a destroyer. I've prevented the other destroyers from coming in, from running any kind of flanks. And I've generally been a nuisance. I've taken 38 planes down. And if the friendly team plays along, this kind of play can be extremely powerful. And that's what support cruisers are there. And that's what I like them for. Be careful with the maneuverability on these things. Again, even a Christopher Colombo with semi-armor piercing can just blast half your health away in one salvo. So beware. Very susceptible to large caliber battleship fire. And you can't easily do things like kiting away either, because the maneuverability is just not as good. But still an extremely good support cruiser, fun ship to play. And the combat instruction mechanic is also an interesting one. Don't use it at close range against destroyers, as tempting as it might be, because you're not going to do an awful lot of damage if that's active, due to the increased armor piercing penetration. And other than that, it's a good ship. And you've seen what I can do to a Smolensk, which makes everybody happy. So here we are. It's a good ship. It's not overpowered. It's not. I don't think there's going to be a nerf incoming anytime soon for this line. So I think it's a fun ship to play, especially if you like this kind of role. And that's it for me today. Thanks, everybody. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.